Awake thou that sleepest. Arise from the dead.
Read the Bible, you'll find out that God's not too happy with what's going on around us.
Redeem the time, because the days are evil.
The Bible has not changed!
Boldly proclaim the restoration and preservation of Christian values in America.
Satan has brainwashed a whole nation.
As goes the church, so goes the nation.
Nobody's convicted of anything anymore.
And now, here's Last Call with your host, B.J. Edwards.
Good morning, brothers and sisters in Christ and fellow Earth travelers. Along with Mr. Anderson and Honor Mama Jeannie, you're listening to your Last Call, 2 hours of Christian talk radio with a sting. Brought to you by the Natural Family Foundation. As goes the family, so goes the nation. Our call-in number, if you wish to participate, is 614-423-4220. Our show can be accessed on the mmunited.org website if you've happened upon us by chance. I'm your host, B.J. Edwards, and this is my world. And once I wake up, I'm going to take it over. What was that? What was that sound in the background?
There.
What was that sound in the background? Last year's New Year's show. Resolution 2019, the year of the family. To build or not to build that border wall? That's the question. Stay tuned and I'll let you know whether we should build that wall or not. I'm rethinking my position.
Build that wall. Build that wall.
Mr. President, build that wall. Plus our guest this week will be none other than Mr. Anderson. He's back.
I'm here with rings on my fingers and bells on my toes.
Yeah. I also have some thoughts on the lesser of the evils theory that many, including yours truly, have dabbled in. And this is especially pertinent when it comes to abortion and presidential elections. Again, Mr. Anderson is back from Texas. He was on special assignment last week at the border. His task was to look for another baby Jesus. You know, the one that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and so many other liberal pundits have been talking about? So, Mr. Anderson, I'm sure in your search last week, you probably found some gang members, drug traffickers, thieves, and other criminals, but did you find another baby Jesus by any chance?
I could only find Jesus.
Jesus. Okay, a lot of them, right?
There's a lot of them, yeah.
That's interesting. We'll have to explore that someday to see why there's so many Jesuses in Mexico.
Jesus, yeah.
Yeah. And who is Last Call's Man of the Year? The man of 2018. And our resolution for 2019, you already heard it. We're going to make it the year of the rebirth of the family of America. The counter-revolution. Bring back the family. Amen?
Bring back the family.
We also mean to get our side excited, united, and committed. Did you have a good Christmas, Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, I had a good Christmas. You know, I got to be with my mom and my brother, both of whom I hadn't seen in 4 or 5 years.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, boy, could I go off on that.
That's a long time.
Let's spread the family all over the universe so they never or very seldom get together.
They're too far away. My goodness. 3-day drive or a whole day air flight, you know.
Yeah, and that's you were in Texas at the border.
At the border,
yep.
Mercedes, Texas, yeah.
My Mrs. BJ's nephew was in a bowl in Dallas, Texas, and it's the only bowl that was ever canceled because of weather.
Oh, is that right?
It's incredible.
Oh my!
We're sitting there and we're getting ready to watch the ball game, and they play. I think into the first quarter, and Boston College is winning, and then boom, they delay the game, and then they can't. Can you imagine, Kevin? Can you imagine all the time and money those parents spent going down to watch their sons play ball, and then, well, we're going to cancel the game? That's just incredible. Hey, by the way, I want to give a special shout out to Kimberly Fletcher of Moms for America and Tim Brown and Matt Torella. They did a great job last week, and we had an incredible message. Just incredible. It was incredible. Yeah, this by far and away was one of our most watched and commented shows of all time.
And well worth it.
Oh, it was just incredible. It was just incredible.
And give a shout out to BJ for putting that together, because I know there was a lot of head scratching and foot stomping and I don't know if we can do this, and then I announce I'm going to Texas.
You're right. Right. Oh well, why not? Everything else is going to go anyway. And we had a great. It's just how your adversary works. Spread that doubt, and you can't do this. Remember what I told you when you get that message, something you should do. That calling, the first thing you're going to hear is, well, should you really do it? And then you can't do it. And think about this, and think about all the negatives. So, yes, it was there. Hey, speaking of Christmas, and Mr. Anderson, I had a great Christmas.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. I found an innocent. We talked on our show several weeks ago about inventing some kind of a game. So when you have your Christmases and Thanksgiving, it's where the duct tape is issued, and especially the men, you can't talk about issues. You can't talk about social issues. You just got to just small talk, and that's it. And you can't really have any kind of effect on your family. Well, I found a game. Now, it's not exactly what I'm looking for, but it's awful close. And it is innocent. And it did help me get just a little closer to my entire family. Do you remember, Mr. Anderson, we did talk about this. And again, the game isn't exactly what I was looking for. The game's called Say Anything. And basically it starts out with a list of general, innocent type questions like, what one thing do you do that relaxes you the most? By the way, I got into trouble on this. Then all the players, except the judge, and you appoint one judge per round, and then everyone writes down what they're thinking. Then you go all the way around the room, and each individual writes down what they're thinking, and then gives out the answer. And then the two best answers, and they choose the two best answers. One could be their own, one could be the one that somebody they think's better, or they could give someone who in other words, you try to guess who the judge is going to appoint, what answer the judge is going to say is the best answer. And if you guess with the judge, you can get 1-2 points for that. And it's interesting to see who agrees with whom and how some of the family members react differently than others to the questions. It really was enjoyable, non-judgmental, non-threatening, and most importantly, did help open up conversation.
So are you going to post the game rules for others so
maybe,
they can play that?
Yeah.
We got a new year coming up,
Right. You do this, by the way, for 10 delightful rounds. And then total up the score, and the winner is the one with the most points. And here's something very interesting, Mr. Anderson. Both myself and my wife were tied as winners. So we had to play one more round, and this is even more incredible. On that final round, both my wife and I answered the question the same way. We gave the same answer. And we just decided after that that it was going to tie. What was the question?
Yeah, what was it?
Mm-hmm. The question was, heaven is. You have any idea what we answered, Mr. Anderson?
I can't. I know. I can't think of it.
Heaven is for real.
Very good answer.
And while we're on the subject of Christmas, this is just something I've noticed that it may just be me, but it's something that I did notice. When it comes to Christmas time, there's definitely a difference between men and women, especially when it comes to visiting folks, which seems to be an American custom around Christmas and New Year's, right? And maybe it's, again, just me. When it comes to men and women, there are definitely a difference in expectations with this party ritual. For instance, my wife, when it comes to visiting relatives and friends, is a lot like, she's a lot like an illegal alien. It takes her forever to get ready and to get there. And then when she arrives, she just refuses to leave. I, on the other hand, and again, maybe it's just me, and not all men in general, or maybe it's my tender age, but for me, going out to visit friends and relatives, I guess I'd say it's a lot. The allure is kind of like going to an IRS audit, which means I'm quite reluctant to go in the first place. And when I get there, I'm already looking at my watch, wondering how soon it is my wife will have me in hospitality jail. Again, maybe it's just me. Anyway, in spite of the differences, and in this case due to large part to our new get-to-know-you family game, I actually was not ready to leave the party, and that is odd for me. This game really opened things up for me. B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson, we got a caller?
We do. I'm trying to find the button here.
You got him? Hey, welcome to the New Year's Eve edition of Last Call. First name and what is your question or comment, please? Do we have him?
It says Roger, but
is he gone?
He went away.
He went away?
That was a trick play.
Have you given any thought to the man of the year for 2018, Mr. Anderson?
Not a lot, but a little bit. That's kind of a hard thing. I don't know very many. I don't know very many of those. Yeah. I thought long and hard about this, and I thought, maybe we should say illegal aliens are men of the year for 2018 because they've definitely been in the news. If you want a positive one, it seems like, maybe Donald Trump, but you know what? I think Brett Kavanaugh should be up there in the running. Ooh, yeah, that's good. Who do you think should be the man of the year for 2018? 614-423-4220. B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. I can't get Mr. Anderson. I can't get this over to where I can see who's on with us. Do you know how to get that back over there? I can't. Who do you think should be the man of the year? Who's had the biggest impact on America in 2018? Brett Kavanaugh is an interesting selection. I think Donald Trump, as far as I'm concerned, he's probably the most attacked of all those. I can't imagine going through the attacks that man's gone through. I really can't. Personal, and they do make it personal. And he can't do anything right. He can't do anything right. Let me give you an example. President Trump went over to visit our troops. And on Wednesday of last week, the NBC reported that he was a bad person because he didn't go over to visit the troops. The Grinch who stole Christmas, right? Meanwhile, and several hours later, when it was announced that he was indeed headed there, CNN, NBC's twin sister, reported only CNN was ripping the president for not doing this and not doing it the right way, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is absolutely amazing. There's nothing that man can do that's going to please
They're purveyors of bad news. Fake news. That's all right, Mr. Andrew. We'll find it later. We're going to have to take a break.
Oh, I got it here.
Did you?
Some people are having trouble with the broadcast, it sounds like, and everything's okay on this end. For this particular thing.
It's typical for us having broadcast issues. Hey, we're going to take a break, and when we come back from the break, we're going to talk to Pastor J.C. Church, because there's something that happened this week in Ohio that is really sad, but it's also an opportunity. B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson, your last call.
Rain, rain on my face. Hasn't stopped raining for days. My world is a flood. Slowly I become one with the mud. But if I can't swim after 40 days,
J. Edwards.
You're back, Mr. Edwards. Mr. Anderson, with Mr. Edwards.
Well, I could tell you what I think about women is, because first the men, the thing, they're so big. The thing is, these great, but they're so huge. They're big. The thing is, sometimes if you walk down, and sometimes if you see you want to be if you're a little flirty, if you walk and you say, you give a little high, and so maybe the next thing before, then maybe they mix you a little and they hand you be drink, you have a cup, what can you be, and then pretty soon they put you in the in the light, and the room goes, and there'll be then a little phonograph comes on, and then you never, if you say before, and then you'll be out, and you don't, if you said yeah, if you said it, yeah, if you said you don't know, because if you really no matter which way, maybe you want a little and you say, and they'll be but they'll be in the football, because that's all, and it'll be guzzling, and they'll be having, and that's because they don't then you try, then you just, and you wait the next time for a telephone, and you see if and when something, and they won't, you try to get it, you you won't hear it, because then maybe they go, they'll be well, you just, that's how it is with women.
Maybe we should make women the men of the year for 2018. What do you think, Mr. Anderson?
Well, if you can make a man a woman of the year.
Can you translate that? Oh, can you transgender that for me?
Transgender that. Well, that sounded like a good explanation about women. I mean, that was women speak, right?
Yep, that's coming up real soon. I want to give you a little background, because I want to talk to you about something that happened in Ohio that basically happens all over the United States, and this is really, really, really sad. I've been talking to you about the heartbeat bill, which has been in the Ohio State House, and it's been going on for the past month. The bill was passed by the Congress, if you will, legislature here in Ohio. But Governor John Kasich, that's K-S-I-C-K, John Kasich, vetoed the bill. It went back to the House, boom, and it goes over to the Senate. Now, the Senate was supposed to pass it and override the veto, but that didn't happen. I need that one up. And our good friend J.C. Church.
Hello, my friends. This is Pastor J.C., and I just wanted to come to you and give you an update on all that we have experienced today at the state capitol as it relates to the heartbeat bill. It now is about, I think, 5:15, and a very long day is coming to an end that began very early this morning with high hopes that today the heartbeat bill would be passed and would override the governor's veto. As many of you know, it went through the House and passed with 60 votes, went over to the Senate. We all walked from the chamber of the House of Representatives over to your state senators into the chamber, and it came up on the floor for a vote, and we felt very confidently that we had 20 votes, only to be surprised when Senator Bill Beagle betrayed us. Beagle betrayed us today. A state senator from the 5th District down around Dayton, Ohio, who now, listen to this, served on the Ohio Fathers Commission, was the vice chairman of the Health Committee and voted for the heartbeat bill, and voted as a senator 2 weeks ago, one of the 18 votes that passed it the first time that sent it to the governor when he vetoed it. So his record had been a yes vote. He shocked and stunned everyone today when out of nowhere he flips from yes to no. Had he not flipped from yes to no, the heartbeat bill would have passed today. And more stunning today, being in the chamber as I was today with other faith leaders, I stood there when he was asked why he changed his vote. And here's the stunner. He said, I don't want to go against the governor. He's been good to me. Our current governor, John Kasich, who is on his way out. Stunning to see the political posturing in the games that are played. Shame on the hypocrisy of what has transpired today with this state senator. 2 years ago, this same governor that you chose to stand with today vetoed the heartbeat bill, and 41,000 babies have been killed in the last 2 years. In Ohio, we average around 57 babies are killed per day. Senator Beagle, the blood of each of those babies every day until we pass this heartbeat bill rests at your feet. That is on your conscience, sir. The hypocrisy to vote yes and to believe people you would vote yes and then to go to a no and stab this issue and people in the back. A double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. This is shameful. It is disgusting, but it is what it is. Stunned and shocked at what we saw today and what I heard today in the chamber of the Senate. Now, with that said, challenging times, my friends, reveal the quality of leadership.
Amen.
Hats off to the Speaker of the House, Ryan Smith, who called this vote and led in the House of Representatives and got those votes. Hats off to Larry Obhoff, the President of the Senate, who put this on the floor for a vote so we could see where everybody was. We believe as we move forward, my friends, that the hopeful part is, will you pray? Because we can fast track this. That coming in January, this bill can make its way back through the process again and land on Governor-elect Mike DeWine's desk. Now, hear me good. Mike DeWine will sign the heartbeat bill when it touches his desk, and it will become law. This is far from over, my friends. And I want to challenge you and encourage you to please reach out after the first of the year to your state representative, to your state senators, and say, let's make this happen quickly because there's hope on the horizon. The heartbeat bill lives on, but the heartbeat of babies die today, 57, each and every day until we get this accomplished. I'm so proud of all faith leaders and pastors across this state who are working with great champion legislators like Ron Hood and Christina Hagan and others who are champions on this issue. My friends, we're going to win. We're not going to quit. Square your shoulders, lift your chin, and let's stay in this fight. Let's pray, let's seek God, and let's participate and get behind the champions that are coming in this new legislature, and let's see this happen. Good things are on the horizon. Let's continue. That's my update.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Thank you. There are some great warriors. There are some great warriors in Ohio, in America. JC's one of those. JC happens to be a pastor, by the way. And I've run into him on several occasions. And may his tribe increase. Does he do everything exactly the way I think he should do them? No. And I'm certain he thinks about me. I don't do things exactly the way they should be done either. But that's okay. We both can work together with Janet Folger and others on this very critical bill. I did a little more research, and this I can't confirm this, but it sounds reasonable. It seems that Senator Beagle is term limited, so why would he even bother to do something controversial like this? Well, I believe there's a high-level opening somewhere in the Treasury Department in the state of Ohio, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we don't end up seeing Mr. Beagle in that position. Just saying, we're going to have to watch to see what happens there.
Not if I have anything to say about it.
I hear you, and this should really excite the troops. DeWine says that he's going to pass it. If it comes on his desk, that he's going to pass it. We'll see. This is a very controversial subject, and once you start putting the heat to something, is when you really recognize who's doing what and who's on whose team. Again, 2019 is going to be the year of the family. And I can tell you that I contacted the representatives in the state of Ohio on behalf of the Natural Family Foundation. And I simply said to them, I'd like to know what your feeling is about this bill. I didn't say vote for it or don't vote for it. And how passage of this bill would be helpful to the natural family. And if it's not passed, how that would be helpful to the natural family. And I'm going to continue to pursue that. That's with those that voted for and those that voted against, which includes my House representative, this bill. And I encourage you, even if you're not from Ohio, you can still ask the question as being part of the Natural Family Foundation movement. Because what happens in Ohio, Ohio's the heart of it all, will happen in other states. And this will go to the Supreme Court. I think South Carolina is doing the same thing. One of those bills that gets out there is going to hit the Supreme Court someday soon. And it doesn't make any difference whether it's Ohio or South Carolina or whatever state. I'm going to be supporting it. And I'll call South Carolina legislators because it does affect me. What happens in one state doesn't stay in that state. It reaches outside of that. So I want you to all to be aware of what is going on with that. And to stay close to it. If not in your state, again, reach out to those other representatives. Or maybe you have family or friends in those states. Just a good thing to do. Really sad that happened, but it's very telling. Look, it's politics. It's politics. And whichever way the wind's blowing, bingo. That's what you find. 2019, the year of the family. I pledge allegiance to the family of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation of families under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Anderson, were you surprised when that happened?
No, I wasn't.
Really. I was shocked. I from the people I was talking with, it sounded like it was a done deal and we were going to override Kasich.
I had high hopes that would happen, but there's too much evil in that, in our government, and I wasn't surprised. And unfortunately, I don't know if this will ever be undone, but I pray for it. And
so you still think even when DeWine gets into office that it's not going to pass?
Well, he didn't do much on that gay marriage issue, and I don't have a lot of confidence in that man. But
I don't. I got to say, I don't either.
He had opportunity to do something, and his answer was the same as what I'm hearing on this issue. Well, it'll be litigated. It'll cost too much money, and it'll go to the Supreme Court. And I don't think it's worth our time.
Well, one of the things that Kasich said is that it's going to cost Ohio money. Now, here's the deal. If they're really concerned about that, let's go ahead and open a GoFundMe account for the heartbeat bill for the state of Ohio. And we'll support it without the state having to spend the money. Now, what are you going to say, governor, ex-governor, soon-to-be presidential candidate?
Yeah, maybe.
John, well, more than anything else, John Kasich wants to be president of the United States. The son of a mailman, the president of the United States. And I don't think, well, it depends on how much, a lot of this depends on what happens in the next couple of years. And that means a lot of this depends on you, call it listeners, in terms of what you do with regards to the opportunities that are going to be presented to you in the next couple of years. You know that the news media is going to garbage. Oh, were you starting to play something, Mr. Anderson?
Break time.
Oh, okay.
Something good has begun. Oh, I've been smiling lately, dreaming about the world.
B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson, your last call. 614-423-4220. We're going to get to that wall. Yeah, we're going to talk about that there wall.
Peace train, oh, peace train, take this country, come take me home again. Now I've been smiling lately, thinking about the good things to
Stay tuned for Last Call with your host, B.J. Edwards.
And that's right. B.J. Edwards, along with Mr. Anderson. Last call. 614-423-4220. To build or not to build that dang wall. I read a couple of interesting articles on the border wall, and I'm starting to rethink my stand on the wall. The first article was written.
Don't stand on the wall.
Okay. The first article was written by Town Hall's Beth Bauman with the headline that read, "Is the border wall a made-up fight?" And she was evidently reporting on Senator Bob Corker, who was leaving the Senate. Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah. There is a God. Who had appeared Sunday on CNN's State of the Union to discuss the border wall. According to Corker, the fighting taking place between the Republicans and Democrats took place on purpose. This is a purposely contrived fight, says Corker. At the end of the day, no matter who wins, our borders are still going to be insecure. There may be some truth in that. There could be some truth in that. Again, this all depends on us. The us in USA, you and me. At the end of the day, nothing's going to happen. Now the government is going to shut down over what ultimately is going to be $2 billion. This is a made-up fight, so the president can look like he's fighting, but even if he wins, our borders are still going to be insecure. Who is collaborating with the president here? The deep state Republicans? Oh, give me a break. And who's at fault here, Senator Corker? How about you and the rest of Congress? According to the senator, a few billion spent on border security will make little difference in the end. Okay, so while I'm thinking about this, I ran across another Town Hall article. This time was written by Derek Hunter. This is on December 23rd. And the title of his article was, Will the War for the Wall be won? This is a very interesting article. And Derek notes in his article that incredible struggle that we are ongoing with a small percentage of federal workforce who are out enjoying their eventual paid time off. You do know that they are going to be paid for this time off, right? Keep in mind, because you won't remember that when it's over. And the author, Derek, notes that we are all survivors of government shutdowns. Since 1976, how many shutdowns do you think we've had since 1976, Mr. Anderson?
1976?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my.
20 shutdowns, full or partial, of the federal government.
Yeah, I was going to say 13, but I knew that was...
How many of those do you remember? You survived. Like you will survive this one. No matter how panicked the media becomes. No matter how crazed Democrats become.
B.O. had one of the longest ones on record.
Ooh, you've been doing a little research. Then Derek, the author, gets into the real battle. something most of us never see, like the spending battles in the past that were over numbers. This time it's something physical, a wall. Yeah? What you got? Can't hear? Radio?
It's not on my phone.
Okay.
Okay.
Democrats, production problems. Democrats will never, ever allow a wall to be built. They can't. Now, here's the problem. President Trump has to build the wall, or at least some of it, or we'll have an even more difficult time. He will have a more difficult time getting reelected. That's the point of everything happening in Washington now, by the way. What are we talking about? Now think about this. Let's go back a ways. Let's go back to, let's say, 1988. And at the moment, then Vice President H.W. Bush first said, you know what the quote is, Mr. Anderson? Read my lips. No new taxes. That promise, once he won, was in the crosshairs immediately of Democrats in Congress. They knew that if they could get him to break that promise, it would demoralize a large enough portion of his base that they could win the election in 1992, which they did. And it wasn't the deciding factor in Bush's loss, but it was a factor. How could you trust someone who made a pledge to you and didn't keep it? Are you starting to see the light here, folks? Keeping Herbert Walker's promise in mind, can you not now easily see why Democrats are now opposing a measly $5 billion to build? If it was $1, if it was $1, they would oppose it, because they know what this means to President Trump. They feign outrage over the idea of spending the money, but the federal government, think about this, spends more than $12 billion every single day. And Democrats are pushing to blow trillions on socialized medicine. So spending money is not something which they have a problem. What they can't afford is for Donald Trump to fulfill even a couple of hundred strategically placed miles of his signature campaign promise. And that is where old BJ started to alter his thinking. Before I'm saying wall, that really won't make any difference. It won't make any difference at all. It won't work. And it certainly won't, and already hasn't in many places. However, and remember that Bush no new taxes quote? That is exactly why Trump has to stick to his guns and build the wall. That make any sense to you, Mr. Anderson?
Well, yes, it makes sense, but no, government doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I didn't say government had to make sense, but you understand the implications here. If Donald Trump doesn't get the wall built, I mean, that's the last foundation that many of those ever-Trumpers are standing on.
Yes, I do get that. That was the main reason he got elected, I think.
Yeah, we have to keep this in mind, too, that we're about a week away. Republicans are about a week away from losing control of the House of Representatives. There's nothing on the planet that would get Nancy Pelosi to authorize a penny for border security. Democrats, however, say they're in favor of border security. They just don't specify what that means. Do you have that tape?
I do.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and play that?
Okay.
Again, Democrats say they're in favor of border security.
On the need to better secure the border and to punish employers who choose to hire illegal immigrants. Those who enter the country illegally and those who employ them disrespect the rule of law, and they are showing disregard for those who are following the law. We simply cannot allow people to pour into the United States undetected, undocumented, unchecked, and circumventing the line of people who are waiting patiently, diligently, and lawfully to become immigrants in this country.
Mexican government's policies are pushing migration north. There isn't any sensible approach except to do what we need to do simultaneously, secure our borders with technology, personnel, physical barriers if necessary in some places, and we need to have tougher employer sanctions, and we need to try to incentivize Mexico to do more. If they've committed transgressions of whatever kind, they should be obviously deported.
People who enter the United States without our permission are illegal aliens, and illegal aliens should not be treated the same as people who entered the U.S. legally. When we use phrases like undocumented workers, we convey a message to the American people that their government is not serious about combating illegal immigration, which the American people overwhelmingly oppose.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers.
Drug dealers are increasingly turning to pimping.
Why? Because drugs you can only sell once, children you can sell over and over again.
We're told some are forced to begin working as early as 12 years old. Most of them are runaways who are lured by the pimps with the promise of a good life. Instead, they're forced to have sex many times a day. They keep none of the money.
That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before.
Yet, today here in Washington, folks are still debating whether or not to fix our immigration system, even though just about everyone agrees that it is broken.
I voted numerous times when I was a senator to spend money to build a barrier to try to prevent illegal immigrants from coming in. And I do think you have to control your borders.
We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
And I'm going to quote this again. There's nothing on the planet that will get Nancy Pelosi to authorize a penny for border security. Can you say duplicitous?
No.
Speaking out of both sides of their mouth. Typical political talk. Happened here in Ohio. This is just, I want to remind all of you that public opinion, your opinion, matters. If you don't express it, somebody else is going to express that for you. And if you don't complain about it, then you have given them license to speak on your behalf. Do you understand that? Why is that important? Today's public opinion are tomorrow's laws. We have a democratic process, a democracy. And when the majority of those that vote, in a lot of cases the majority don't even bother to vote. And I guess in a way, I can't blame you. I mean, you can't do anything about it, right? We're going next year we're going to start selling large rocks as fundraisers so you can hide under them. And we expect to be millionaires by the end of January, because apparently a lot of you are looking for that product. But I want you to understand something. Think in terms of water, because that water is going to seek you out. And it's going to go to the lowest level, which is where you're going to be. And it's going to come and get you first and yours. Just keep that in mind. I've said it before, and Tim Brown said it last week. You're either going to be involved in politics, or politics is going to be involved in you. There is no choice. And Christians, God established 3 institutions for the benefit of man: the family, the church, and government. He expects you to be involved in that. That's how we make decisions corporately, through our government. So don't complain when Christian children are being taught secular humanist ideals, because you can stop that. You can't do it alone. So start finding people that you can unite with. And that's going to be one of the themes of 2019 as well. We need to start uniting in our efforts. When we come back from break, BJ's going to finish his thoughts on the border wall. Again, you've just heard some very interesting statements from politicians who today would say that we can't have a wall. Again, B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson, your last call. 614-423-4220. Love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Oh, well. I'm going to express opinions on your behalf. Let me put it that way. So if you don't say anything to me, I'm just going to assume that you believe what I'm saying.
I might butt in.
Stay tuned for Last Call with your host, B.J. Edwards.
B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson, and we've been talking about border security, or what is really border insecurity right now. We had mentioned that Nancy Pelosi is not going to spend a penny. At least she doesn't think she's going to spend a penny. Let's get real here, folks. How many people would not vote for Donald Trump in 2020 if that wall is not built?
Let's see a show of hands.
For sure. As you heard earlier, and we played, not every Democrat is on record as saying we don't want a wall. Matter of fact, they're on record as saying we do want a wall. We do want border security. At some point in recent history, they were found supporting the wall theory. It shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't be a war, but it is. And we're going to soon find out if this country wins or we lose, so stay tuned.
So who is the real enemy?
Good point. This is quite interesting in that ever since conservatives rallied around a GoFundMe campaign to fund border wall, Democrats have tried to figure out how to stop the funding for the wall. For example, Texas Democrat Sheila Jackson Lee on Wednesday of this week introduced House Resolution 7332, which would prohibit taxpayer funds from being used to build a wall between Mexico and the United States and for other purposes. Currently, there are 4 co-sponsors: Representative Karen Bass, Democrat, California; Yvette Clark, I don't even have to say what party they're with; Marcia Fudge from Ohio; and Joaquin Castro from Texas. The bill has been referred to the House Judiciary Committee and the House Homeland Security Committee. Wait, what? A congressman or congresswoman doesn't want more of the public's money? Are you serious here? You can't make this stuff up, folks. Let me add just a couple more items to the equation, to the border equation. Words mean things. And we all know But what about monuments? Think about monuments. Is there a monument in New York City for 9/11? What purpose was it created for? What about the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, the Martin Luther King Memorial? Or how about the Statue of Liberty, eh? The list goes on, folks. Billions of dollars worth of monuments. And what exactly is their function? Let me define.
Something to mow around, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Let me describe a monument. A building, stone, or statue made to keep alive the memory of a person or event. Something that serves as a good reminder. For example, well, we had a last call discussion a few weeks ago about commitment as versus interested. Now let's just say, for the sake of this argument, that your neighbor is a little concerned about your son's baseball that continues to land in his yard. The neighbors talk to you and your son. You know how that goes, right? Now let's say that this has been going on for a couple of months, and the ball, like a magnet, along with the sun, continues to invade your neighbor's yard. All right, son or daughter. Okay, son or daughter. Can't win. Then you come home one evening, and there's an 8-foot wall around your neighbor's house. How do you react now? Would you say that your neighbor is committed or still just a little interested in keeping your son out of his yard? Now, it might still not always work for your athletic son or daughter, but you can certainly say there's been a message sent and a message received. And that, my friend, is the point. Amen? A wall does signify something. I hear you, Don. I hear you, Don. Money, money, money. Taxes, 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 right? So how do we pay for that there wall? GoFundMe is a cute idea, but I think I have an even better one. One will keep our new wall from being a monument to inefficiency. And it's also a way to kill two birds with one stone, a twofer, as I like to call it. How do we pay for the wall? We pay for it by fines to businesses that hire those illegal immigrants. Every company that's found hiring illegal aliens must pay a certain fine, and with illegal workers estimated to be in the millions, how about tens of millions? It wouldn't take long to get that amount needed to building the wall, right? And even the related security. And as many of these workers are Mexican, I guess one could honestly say that the Mexicans are indeed responsible for paying for the building of the wall, right? I know it's a stretch, but in today's word economy, I think it fits rather nicely. Now, can those companies keep their valuable workers? Possibly. And they can do that without making them citizens or permanent residents. How? We hire them as contract workers that are in the country at will and can be dismissed at will by the country that they're in. And oh yeah, they'll be taxed for the privilege of working here as well. If not them, individuals, then how about a contract agency, and maybe from Mexico, that hires them for work here in America? You know that's happening all the time now, right? I worked in computer recruiting for years, and there were a lot of contract programmers. They were the thing, a big thing. You don't hire them as permanent employees. You contract with a third party, and they provide the help. And when the job is done and you don't need them anymore, then it's the contract programming company that they've got to return to. You don't have to hire them as a employee. You don't have to bring them into the United States as a citizen. The work is readily available if you contract with that company. So as Mr. Anderson was saying earlier, Mr. President, build that wall, or maybe build that monument. You can chalk that last part of the conversation up to the art of the deal. So that's where I am with the wall right now. At first, I'm going, it's not a good idea. It's a waste of money. But in retrospect, I can make the case. Well, actually, I just did make the case for actually building the wall. It is a symbol, yes, but it's up to us to honor that. It's up to us to honor the Martin Luther King Memorial, the Lincoln Memorial, the Statue of Liberty. It's up to us to honor that. Again, it's right back in our lap. What's that?
Robert E. Lee.
How so?
Oh, well, the one they've been trying to tear down. And
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Interesting.
First monument I know about, and I was thinking about it, just checked on it. In Genesis 35:14. So Jacob.
You're always going to that Bible thingy.
Oh, well.
Mr. Anderson, you just can't help yourself, can you?
No. I just like to know that that God approves of certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So Jacob set up a memorial, a stone marker, to mark the place where God had spoken with him. And he poured a wine offering and olive oil on it. Jacob named the place where God had spoken with him Bethel, house of God. So that's the first memorial marker I know of.
The Bible talks about, I don't know what you call them, memorials, but there are stones, or there's places that let you know whose property is where, and don't move those stones. Doesn't it talk about that, Mr. Anderson?
Yes, it does. And it also names them as markers to remind our children of their heritage.
Why do you think, and you mentioned it earlier, why do you think it's so important for some people to have monuments to the Confederacy torn down? I mean, what are they doing? They're stone. They're not doing anything. They're not stopping this. They're not starting that. Why do they think that they have to come down?
Well, because they believe a lie, for one thing.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
And they put these fake words to describe what they remind them of.
Mm-hmm.
And fake words like racism.
There is no racism, according to Jesse Lee Peterson. There is no racism.
There's only right and there's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to agree with that.
A lot of paranoia, in my humble opinion, when it comes to issues like that. And homophobe. Just words that are used as weapons against the truth, against righteousness. Words meant to divide us. And that is really what we've become in America, what Matt Truello mentioned last week, atomizing. That we break things down to the individual level, and it's all about me, 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 me. That's one of the things I like about Christmas, and one of the things I tell my children, that it's an opportunity to give. We can have arguments about, well, Christ was actually born in September, and this is a pagan holiday. Again, it's like monuments. It's how we use them. It's how we use Christmas.
I agree.
And I use it as an opportunity to tell my children that the greatest skill that they'll ever learn in life, and if they want to get along in life, if they want to be successful in life, they need to learn how to do one thing: how to give. and not expecting anything back, but how to give. And once that gets into your psyche, you have no idea what that does for you, because it fills something inside of you. I always want to outgive my wife and anybody else. I want to give more than anybody else. And it's just inside of me. It's not my competitive nature. It's just what I want to do. And that's for everybody around us. That's why I do the program. Hey, second hour is family hour. Can't wait to get to this next email that I got this week. Oh, man. Ooh, so good. So good. Family 2019.
Stay tuned for Last Call with your host, BJ Edwards.
Looking at some of the comments online. Hey, listen, I apologize for the technical issues. We are working on them. We're doing the best we can. We appreciate your patience with us.
614-423-4220.
Nah, I don't want anybody to call in. I want to speak for them. Yeah.
You want to voice their opinion?
Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to call my senator this week, highest senator, and I'm saying I'm going to speak on behalf of at least 500 people. They've told me that I could speak on their behalf. Well, you know, they haven't said I couldn't, right?
Right.
So I can take that. I can take that ball and run with it. Why not? Why not? Hey, I got a great email this week. It really encouraged me. It was from Matt Staver of Liberty Counsel.
Oh.
And Liberty Counsel is I think we are having an effect, Mr. Anderson. And the natural term is starting to become more used, and I love it. And I want to share this email I got from Matt, again, of Liberty Counsel. I was very encouraged by it, by the way. I'm going to quote Matt. There's a disastrous epidemic eating away at America's families that stems from heightened cultural, legal, and legislative attacks on the family structure itself. I had a conversation yesterday with a friend, and we were talking about what is going on in America. And I was talking about the umbrella of the natural family. And towards the end of the conversation, it dawned on me that if you think about abortion, heartbeat bill, if you think about our government-run schools, if you think about gay marriage, if you look at what's happening in our nation, at the laws that are being passed, and the rhetoric, everything, with very few exceptions, is attacking one entity. And I noted to my friend that our enemy is united. And I used the example of the family by saying, look what the enemy is united doing. Look at the Communist Manifesto. Look at the Homosexual Manifesto. Look at the laws again. What is the one entity that they're all trying to desperately destroy, to discredit? It's the family, folks. And I truly believe that we can unite under the family umbrella. It is so inclusive. And I'm going to be working on family organizations this year. My main project is to get them together, to get everybody on the same page by initiating a pledge for same. Back to the email. Radical groups, this is an email from Matt Staver, Liberty Counsel. Radical groups want to redefine marriage and the family, destroy the natural family, and our nation will crumble. Do I have to yell this? I will repeat it. From Matt Staver. If you destroy the natural family, what is he talking about there? The natural family. That's one man, one woman, biologically born that way, by the way, in a lifelong, committed, monogamous relationship with their biological and or adopted children. That is the family. That's the core. And in that natural family, there's a natural order. And it is man, woman, and children. If you mess with the content or the structure of that family, and I'm going to paraphrase for Matt, the nation will crumble. Look what happened to Rome. Look what happened to Greece. They all made the same mistake. And America is deja vu all over again. We're going right at it again. It is insane what we're doing to this nation. And we can't understand why our kids are going on drugs. Or why they're not motivated to do anything. They need the mother. They need the father. They need to know that they're loved. And the reactions we're seeing are in large part due to the lack of that love. Well, wait a minute. I love my son and my daughter. I didn't say that you didn't love them. But they're not getting that message. And some of the message that they want to hear is no. No, you can't do this. No, that isn't right. They really do want to hear that. Because inside of each and every individual is that meter that judges right and wrong. It's there with all of us. And they need to have that confirmed. They need the confidence of a father and a mother, of their love. And that they care enough about them to educate them. The parents are the ones that are supposed to be teaching the children about the Bible, about religion, about sex, about all those important issues in life. That's what the parents need to be doing. But yet in today's society, and what Matt is talking about, is we've turned that over to other institutions. We've turned it over to the government. We've turned it over to the church. Well, yeah, you're supposed to, BJ. Not necessarily. Church is composed of families, by the way. And you shouldn't be expecting, let's say, a 21-year-old youth pastor to teach your child moral. Do you really think that that's going to work? Well, take a look at what's happened. Destroy the natural family, and our nation will crumble. BJ, Matt goes on, among Liberty Counsel's core tenets is the protection of the family. Right now, there's an unprecedented onslaught targeting our families through cultural immersion, government mandates, and extreme propaganda taught in our public schools. That's right, Matt. Matt went on to talk about how intensely they, Liberty Counsel, are involved in the fight for marriage and the family. They continually file suits, and they're litigating against laws that seek to ban counselors from providing counsel to reduce or eliminate unwanted same-sex sexual attraction. You know that in many states now. If your child has a problem with their sexuality, that it's a one-sided equation. You can't tell them that what they're feeling is wrong. Oh, no. You're likely to lose your child. What? Yeah. You're likely to lose your child. And then they'll take the child and maybe put him at home with two fathers or two mothers. Oh, joy. That'll work, right? Doesn't really make any difference, right? Child doesn't know the difference between a man and a woman. Well, thanks to the government and public education, you're probably right. They're really confused about it. That's our fault, folks. That's the parents' fault. We need to be participating. And you're right, Don. You can't participate if both parents are having to work 40, 50 hours a week just to get by so they can support a government that won't build walls and that wants to educate your child. Schools are now talking about the First Amendment, by the way, and how that should be presented to students. Whoa, that ought to scare the dickens out of you. Again, they file suits, litigation, laws. By the way, these are unconstitutional laws that prevent minors from getting the help they seek from unwanted gender confusion, and they do stifle First Amendment rights of parents, of counselors, of pastors. Wow. I mean, sit back and take a look at the America that you live in right now. A lot of that is due to your lack of participation and my lack of participation. Our lack of taking responsibility for what we have, especially with our children. They represent concerned parents regarding public school sex education curriculum that encourage deviant sexual activity in spite and often without parental knowledge or consent. They file amicus briefs to advance the sanctity of human life. They support religious freedom laws while opposing radical, dangerous LGBT gender identity laws. BJ, when you stand with the Liberty Council, you're standing for the family and the sanctity of God-ordained natural marriage. You are joining us in fighting against Big Brother and overreach into our most personal decisions regarding our families. You're helping us stand against a well-funded radical LGBTQ movement. And they're asking for a special year-end offering. I would recommend the Liberty Council, personally.
They've done a lot in the fight. They
Yep.
have contributed, supported a lot of people.
2019, we want to make that the year of the family, retaking the family. We'd love to have, we need your help. We've got to decide what we're going to do. I mean, we're having difficulties this morning with broadcast, and that's because we have limited resources, and we have to find a way to better get our message out, to make it more consistent to you, because we understand. If you're in communications, you understand what that means. Sometimes a second or two, and you can hear that listener click. Now, should it be that way? No. But you got to deal with what you got to deal with. So we have to make decisions on that end. Where we're going to broadcast, if we're going to broadcast, how the other outreaches we're going to have. And again, I'm in the process now of putting a pledge together for other like-minded organizations to try to build the natural family, the family umbrella, to fill that up underneath that. We need to know other organizations, like-minded organizations, that you think ought to be under that umbrella, because we need to contact them. And we need to have that pledge. And as we go about in 2019, numbers do mean things. I know some of you might say that's not very biblical, but they do mean things. And if we can say that we're representing 5 million people, 5 million voters, 5 million citizens, well, it's if you call a congressman, and let's just say I'm representing the Natural Family Foundation, and they go, well, who's the Natural Family Foundation? Well, we have 5 million members, and then they're going to go, oh, that Natural Family Foundation. And it does open up doors. But we can't do that unless we unite. And that's one of the biggest things that we have not done. And I know that there's other organizations out there that are trying to do the same thing. I don't know whether the natural family is it. But like I said earlier in the show, our enemy is united against one thing, and that's the family. Abortion is part of that. Gay sodomy marriage is part of that. Pornography is part of that. Child abuse, Sharia law. If you think about all the issues that, if resolved, would benefit the family, you got to scratch your head and say, well, maybe that is it. I don't know. I don't profess to have all the answers. I mean, for 15 years, I worked with an organization, and I thought that was the answer. But I'm coming to the realization that it was part of the answer. Yes, the church needs to get involved. It needs to engage the culture. Yes, Christ was involved in politics. So yes, the church, the pastors, the church leaders, and those organizations need to be engaged in the culture. That's very, very important. But it's very difficult to do because the church is composed of families. And if you have broken families, you're not going to have much of a church, are you? When we come back from break, we're going to continue the discussion about the family. I'd love to talk to you about this. 614-423-4220. B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson, your last call.
Just because we get around. My generation. Things ain't do look awful. Talking about my generation. I hope I die before I get old. Talking about my generation. Just my generation, baby.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with B.J. Edwards.
We played a clip several weeks ago, Tucker Carlson. And Tucker was talking about the family. You know, family, come on. Families are the glue that holds all societies together, flat out. Nations that ignore families or alter their natural structure, form, and purpose are doomed to destruction. Rome, Greece, other nations altered the natural form and purpose of the family. As a direct result, no longer exist. The USA has headed the way of Rome and very close to repeating its fate. Call-in number to talk with myself or Mr. Anderson is 614-423-4220. If you want to listen by phone, I think we can still do that, but we are having issues with it at 605-475-0017. If you're a YouTuber, go to our B.J. Edwards Facebook page. And by the way, be sure to subscribe. And you might want to catch last week's show. Whew, was that ever good? What does Dennis Prager have to say about the family, Mr. Anderson?
Well, he has a lot to say, but we got a clip of an important part that maybe hurts a lot of families. Kind of an unknown sin.
Yep, Dennis Prager.
There's an old joke about the seventh commandment, do not commit adultery. Moses comes down from Mount Sinai and announces, I have good news and bad news. The good news is that I got him down to 10. The bad news is that adultery stays.
Yeah.
The joke is telling. The prohibition on a married person having sexual relations with anyone except his or her spouse may be, for many people, the most consistently difficult of the 10 Commandments to observe. The reasons shouldn't be hard to guess. One is the enormous power of the sex drive. It can be very hard to keep in check for the entirety of one's marriage, especially when an attractive outsider makes him or herself sexually or romantically available. Another reason is the human desire to love and be loved. For normal people, there is no more powerful emotion than love. If one falls in love with someone while married, it takes great effort not to commit adultery with that person. And if we add in the unfortunate circumstance of a loveless marriage, adultery becomes even more difficult to resist. That's why the joke with which I began is funny, because it reflects truth. Why is adultery prohibited in the Ten Commandments? Because, like the other 9, it is indispensable to forming and maintaining higher civilization. Adultery threatens the very building block of the civilization that the Ten Commandments seeks to create. That building block is the family, a married father and mother and their children. Anything that threatens the family unit is prohibited in the Bible. Adultery is one example. Not honoring one's father and mother is another. And the prohibition on injecting any sexuality into the family unit, incest, is a third example. Why is the family so important? Because without it, social stability is impossible. Because without it, the passing on of society's values from generation to generation is impossible. Because commitment to a wife and children makes men more responsible and mature. Because more than anything else, family meets most women's deepest emotional and material needs. And nothing comes close to the family in giving children a secure and stable childhood. And why does adultery threaten the family? The most obvious reason is that sex with someone other than one spouse can all too easily lead to either or both spouses leaving the marriage. Adultery should not automatically lead to divorce, but it often does. There is another reason adultery can destroy a family. It can lead to pregnancy and then to the birth of a child. That child will, in almost all cases, start out life with no family, meaning no father and mother married to each other to call his or her own. And if adultery doesn't destroy a family, it almost always does terrible harm to a marriage. Aside from the sense of betrayal and loss of trust that it causes, it means that the adulterous partner lives a fraudulent life. When a husband or wife is having sex with someone other than their spouse, their thoughts are constantly about that other person and about how to deceive their spouse. The life of deception that an adulterous affair necessarily entails inevitably damages a marriage, even if the betrayed spouse is unaware of the affair. Finally, the commandment prohibiting adultery doesn't come with an asterisk saying that adultery is okay if both spouses agree to it. Spouses who have extramarital sex with the permission of their husband or wife may not necessarily be hurting their spouse's feelings, but they are still harming the institution of marriage. And protecting the family, not protecting spouses from emotional pain, is the reason for the commandment. Many marriages, sadly, are troubled, and it is not for any of us to stand in judgment of others' behavior in this realm. No one knows what goes on in anyone else's marriage, and if we did, we might often well understand why one or the other sought love outside the marriage. But no higher civilization can be made or can endure that condones adultery. That is why it is prohibited in the Ten Commandments. I'm Dennis Prager.
Thank you, Dennis. I just love his presentations. There's so much common sense and so much biblical. And Dennis isn't even a Christian. So much biblical law that he talks about. It's just incredible. You know, I want to talk to you a little bit about compromising with the devil. But before I do that, I want you to understand that when God set up the world, he did set up spiritual laws. But he also set up material laws. He also set up spiritual laws. And they're just as true as those material laws. Gravity, inertia. And when Dennis was talking about adultery, first of all, sex is an incredibly powerful emotion. It can change the world overnight. One woman, one man's lust, or vice versa, if you will. Just automatically alter the whole landscape. And when you start breaking those spiritual laws, bad things will inevitably happen. They may not necessarily happen to you immediately, but they are true. And like gravity, what goes up will come down. And what you set spiritually will come back, in many cases, to haunt you. You know, every morning, every day, Satan is trying to get you to do one thing. That's to compromise. And your compromising is with God, or your compromising is with those spiritual laws. I had an opportunity to fill in for David Arthur on his show this week. And I admire David and folks like him because David is very uncompromising. And we need to have that. And in my mind, there are several degrees of compromise, but there's only two methods. And when you speak in terms of degrees, you can talk about those that are committed to not compromising and those that are interested in not compromising. And on that scale from committed to interested, let's say 1 to 10, 5 being the center point, I think where most of us find ourselves, by the way, we really need to be at that 10 point, which is committed. I mentioned the fence this morning, the neighbor's fence. That's committed. That's 10 on the level. Again, like Brother David Arthur or our good friend Coach Dave Dobmeyer. Yeah. When you draw a line in the sand, you find the David Arthurs of the world and the Coach Dave Dobmeyers of the world and the Donald Trumps of the world. And that's a lot like building a wall. That's a commitment. Again, the difference between committed and interested. And when it comes to compromise, especially in today's world, it seems that our adversary, the devil, is always who we're asked to compromise with. And by we, I mean every Christian and otherwise. And sadly, the Christians that should know better, actually they do know better, but there's still a lot less resistance when we just give in, right? For those of you who have kids, you know what I'm talking about. You get the idea. I mentioned two methods. Let's call those routes compromise with the devil, and that's a no-win situation. How about if you get the devil to compromise with you? Say what? Let me give you an example. And I think we can go back to the example of Ohio and the heartbeat law. I think there'd be a lot of people out there that say, well, that's compromising with the devil. It's not totally getting rid of abortion. I mean, let me make one thing clear here. When it comes to abortion, Satan owns that territory. Okay? Don't kid yourself. He owns that territory. A woman can get an abortion anytime she wants and likely get the state to pay for it. So don't kid yourself here. You don't have any property rights when it comes to abortion. I'm sorry, you don't. Now, if you have an opportunity to take back some of that land, to take back some of that property, you've got two options. You can say, well, I'm not going to compromise with the devil, or you can take back some of that property. What's the right thing to do? Come on, what is the right thing to do? In elections, it seems like Satan owns that territory as well. Because we end up voting for the lesser of the evils, right? But what happens, and many people will say, when you have somebody like Donald Trump And it looks like he wants to take back some of that territory that's already owned. Already owned. That's the key. Satan already owns it. You're not compromising. He's got it. So why wouldn't you take back some of that land, some of that property? Making friends this morning? B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. 614-423-4220. 2019, the year of the family.
Vote for me and I'll set you free.
Stay tuned for Last Call with your host, B.J. Edwards.
And it seems nobody's interested in learning but the teacher. Segregation, determination, demonstration, integration, aggravation, humiliation, obligation to our nation.
B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson, your last call. The next 30 minutes, love to hear from you, by the way. 614-423-4220. Next 30 minutes, I'm going to talk about a little more about 2019 and my hopes for 2019. Everybody makes pledges. Again, I've talked to several people about what they're planning to do in 2019. One of the keys that I'm hearing is unity, and I very much am in agreement with that. But the first problem we have is we can't decide what we're going to unite on. Again, I'd mentioned that the enemy has already made that decision, and that's to destroy the family. So let's start there. If we don't have the family, what do we have? What's the basis? What's the foundation of our society? Now, a lot of you are going to say the Bible and Jesus Christ. And that's what the Constitution should be. We shouldn't have a Constitution. We should have the Bible and we should have Jesus Christ. But we've got to be pragmatic here. How do we get, I don't disagree with that, but how do we get from where we are right now to that point? I mean, when you talk to somebody about Jesus Christ or the Bible, I don't have my Christian hat here in the studio. I should put it on. But when you talk about Jesus Christ in the Bible, most people are going to. Most people are going to. You can stare at Mr. Anderson. You can look at Mr. Anderson. Most people are going to be turned off. They've been trained by our government-run schools. They've been told by our politicians. They've been told by those in authority, by those that they respect, by the entertainers, by the news media, that you discount any discussions about Christianity. You put it up on the shelf and you don't talk about it. So how are you going to get from point A to point B? I watched last night a YouTube video where a young gentleman, brave gentleman, was standing outside of a strip joint. And he was yelling biblical verses at the people going in. Now I can't tell you for sure whether in future years that those words may come back and haunt somebody, but I can tell you presently that's not going to stop those gentlemen from going into that strip club. That's not going to do that. And actually, your case could be made that the individual is casting his pearls before swine, and maybe, again, I'm not saying this, but a case could be made, maybe he's not doing justice to the Word of God. Maybe there's a better way to do that than standing out in front of that strip joint or on a street corner and screaming the Word. I don't know, in the end, what the effect is. But so far, I'm seeing a nation, prayer is important, but prayer without works is dead. I'm seeing a nation that is just going straight to HE double hockey sticks. And we can't seem to get there fast enough. We seem to be inventing, I mean, we're reinventing sex now. Instead of male and female, there's what, 40, 50, 60 different terms that we can use for where you are currently in your thoughts with regards to sex. That's crazy. That's crazy. So we have to do something to try to get back to what I would consider normalcy. And what better than the family? What got us from Adam and Eve to 7.6 billion people to the year 2019? What got us there? I can tell you what got us there, and that was the family. We couldn't have done it without the family. The unity in the family. Family become clans, and then tribes, and then nation or states. And the stronger the families are, the stronger those nation states are. NaturalFamilyStrong.com. That's why we call it that. When you have that strength, that's what happened to Rome. Rome was doing the same thing that we're doing, and that is having small families. You know, take care of mama and papa and nobody else. They were having those small families. So they needed someone to get the work done. So they had to hire the barbarians and bring them in. Well, guess what happened? You know what happened. The barbarians, first of all, outpopulated the Romans and then took over Rome, became Rome. So to me, that keys in on the importance of the family. And where I think we can find the unity. I think the family is the bus that can drive us to that Christian destination that we need to get to. And I've mentioned before, when we approach the natural family, when we approach individuals about it, it isn't necessarily a Christian, strictly Christian approach. We understand that the Joe Plumbers of the world don't want their 14-year-old daughter being pregnant nor their 16-year-old son being a prom queen. That's natural. They know that. They don't have to be a Christian. It's ingrained in them. So we can't snub our nose at them. We need them on that bus. We need them on our team. And the nice thing about bringing them on their team is we get to expose them to Christianity, where normally they would say, oh, Christianity? No, sorry, not interested. Not interested. You guys are too judgmental. You're too strict. Look at you. You don't even follow what you say you believe in. Nah, not for me. Not for me. So I think it's a wonderful way, the family, to bring in those people that need to be brought into the family concept, which is actually a biblical concept. That's where you find, I mean, we were talking about adultery earlier, and the Bible talks about it. It didn't go into length like that 5-minute audio did, but as you live through life and you experience life, you understand why God said, thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Steal. Honor thy mother and thy father. Now, how did that get into the Ten Commandments? Come on. Honor your mother and father? Why is that so important? Was that number 5, Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Is it? Okay. Why is it number 5? Why isn't it number 10 or an asterisk, number 11?
Well, the first 4 are about how we honor God, and the last 6 are about how we honor one another.
True.
And so the beginning of that, it's reinforced in Ephesians 6, you know. Children, honor your parents, and you, I'm paraphrasing, of course, and you will have a better life.
Yep. And while we're traveling in Ephesians talks about the order, the structure of the family: God, Jesus Christ, man, woman, children. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that order. And maybe There's a reason for the order. The Bible says love God and then love man. Well, the first four, love God, and then the loving man starts with, of all things, the family, the mother and father. I think there's a good reason, number one, it's in there, and number two, it's in the order that it's in. I'm not a theologian. I'm sure there's arguments against what I'm just saying, but that's okay. It's my show, and you haven't called in and you haven't disagreed, so you obviously agree with me about that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And I'm glad you're not a theologian.
Yeah. Why?
Well, theology, isn't that a form of philosophy?
Oh, okay. Okay.
And philosophy is man's ideas, not God's.
Mm-hmm. True. It's the family, stupid. It's the family. Families are the glue that holds all societies together. History backs up what I'm talking about. Modern day sociologists, if they're honest with you, will back up what we're talking about. You see it in your everyday life. How about this? Go to a prison. Talk to that inmate, him or her, about their family life. Yeah. Something was either missing or something was very, very wrong, because basic family needs were not met. If we don't get back to the family, if we continue to ignore it, if we continue to look the other way while socialists and atheists destroy the family, take that sledgehammer and keep pounding away at the foundation. If we continue to do that, we will lose the foundation. When we lose the foundation, we will lose America. It's Romans 2 all over again. And that is exactly what's happening to America. 2019, 2020 are incredibly important years for this nation to survive. And I can tell you, if we go the socialist communist route, and that can't be achieved with the family has to be done with before socialism and communism can take their final hold. But once they come in, I can guarantee you, and then there's a cycle of history that will agree with me, that once you get to that point, then it's game, set, and match. We're no longer going to have a United States of America. Actually, we don't even have a United States of America right now, if you use the term united literally, because we're not. The states are divided. But the government's coming in and taking control and speaking for the states like the government is speaking for the families, right? You constitutionalists, you ought to be, yay, you finally got it right, BJ. Huh?
That's a good point, though.
I understand that. It's all part of the division, but they still can be united, the states, if you will, and should be united in the cause of the Union, because they knew that being united was their strength. And even
that border.
Say what?
Protect that border. Come on, states.
Don't dilute it. Yeah. So it's 2019, the year of the family. We want to drive that point home. We have to drive that point home. We need to define what the family is. We need you, listeners, to internalize that concept, to understand the importance of it, and to internalize that concept, like you Christians do with Jesus Christ. You know who Jesus Christ is, right? I mean, how can you become a Christian if you don't know who Jesus Christ is? Well, the same rules apply with a family. You need to know what a family is. Then you need to know why it's important. Take a look around, see what's happening. Understand that it's because the family is disintegrating. It's been warped. And that's why we have the issues that we have. Then you need to get motivated to do something about it. And then after you get motivated, you need to do something. You can't be in the stands cheering. That's not going to work any longer. You've got to get into the game. You've got to participate. B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson, your last call. 2019. The family revolution.
I have done all that I could to see the evil and the good.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with B.J. Edwards.
Welcome aboard, Eric. Appreciate you. And Bill Miller, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you, brother. Even though you're from that state up north. I think they're playing ball today at noon today, aren't they, Mr. Anderson? Eastern? Playing Florida? Come on. Come on.
No, I have not even looked at that schedule.
I can understand. Once Ohio State just, scorched them, I can understand why you'd give up on something like that. Yeah, that makes sense.
I've been flying around the country.
Yeah, trying to find Jesus.
Looking at the flat earth.
Trying to find the baby Jesus.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah. Again, call the number 614-423-4220. I know all you're bashful and shy out there, and you're letting me talk for you, and I really appreciate that. I really do. We have a great clip we're going to end the show with. You know how long that clip is, Mr. Anderson?
Not exactly, but I can give you that information here.
Yeah, if you would. If you would. Again, I want to reiterate, 2019 is the year of the family. We want to teach you as much as we can about it. We want you to internalize it. Make it important to you.
2 minutes, 46 seconds.
Okay. And I really am looking forward to next year with everything that's coming down the road. You understand that it's going to get ugly very quick. I can't imagine the 1st of January when we have that new Democratic Congress. The rhetoric that's going to come out of there. And Nancy Pelosi is going to be about 3 feet off the floor, strutting around like a rooster and cackling like a hen.
I was just thinking, think about how the non-supporters of the wall use family to defend their
Sure they do.
And how actually they abuse. I mean, these children are abused. They're abused children, abused by their parents, and then used by the media to discredit the agenda, that they would discredit our ideas of the wall. And it's a terrible situation down there.
Illegal immigration encourages the destruction of the family.
It does.
And that's a great point, Mr. Anderson, because it separates families. Now, I'm not just talking about a parent and a child. Families are more than that. It's, again, a clan, a community. There's a mother and a father, but there's a grandmother and a grandfather. There are brothers and there are sisters. And there are nieces and there are nephews.
Who are left behind in some of these cases. And I just can't imagine a parent dragging their child through this kind of ordeal.
Yeah, I don't understand it either. I mean, really, I don't understand why someone would do that. Streets paved with gold, I guess. We're not there. By the way, y'all should count your blessings in terms of it looks bad out there for America right now, but y'all need to count your blessings because we are certainly blessed. We're a country where the poor live like kings and queens in other countries. And that's a fact. And that's why people are trying to get into the country. But you need to understand that we can't let everybody in. Because if you get that many leeches on the host, the host is going to die.
There you go.
And America has to survive. But think about this. If America goes bye-bye, then what happens to the world in terms of morals? How about in terms of welfare? We spend tons of money keeping other nations in foodstuffs and in medicine. And that's because capitalism. Oh, BJ didn't say that, did he? Yeah, I said capitalism. I'm sorry. But that is why. But we learned early on in our nation the benefit of families, but also the benefit of capitalism, which is the antonym of socialism. You can't have socialism if you got the family. It just won't work.
And certainly can't believe in God.
Yeah, that too. 2019, the year of the family. Don't forget that. Keep that on your mind. Help us out here. Tell your friends about the program. www.naturalfamilystrong.com. You can go to BJ Edwards on Facebook. What other points do we have here, Mr. Anderson, in terms of where people can go?
Okay, yeah. LastCallRadio.live. YouTube, BJ Edwards. There's some contacts through BJ Edwards' Facebook page. MinutemenUnited.org.
And I agree with you, Bill. Last week's program is a great place to start for a couple reasons. It was one of our better programs, but also it really, really did talk about the family. And it wasn't just BJ talking about it. We got the Eve side of the equation, and we've got some fellows that have been in the culture war for years, decades, and their impressions about what is going on. And we talked about unity. And that's one of the things that we're going to do next year as well, is try to work with those 2-3 organizations and get them to expand out to other organizations. And that's already in process. You can help us do that. Get a hold of me, naturalfamilystrong.com. Contact information is there. Get a hold of us and let us know who it is you think we need to be talking with.
Send us articles that we can post.
Yep.
Write articles we can post. We do have a website, naturalfamilystrong.com, and we will be glad to post articles that encourage and instruct, teach. We need to organize, network, as BJ is an expert of. Network these organizations that can help. There are families in trouble. You know, what can we do to help families in trouble? How can we connect them with organizations and things when families are fighting for their last breath? What can we do to help? What can we do?
Part of that is creating an environment where we can help. Like I said before, on that email from Liberty Counsel, there are obstructions to you trying to keep your child from practicing abnormal behavior. I mean, you can't. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, and there are organizations that are taking children away from good homes, even.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's,
they call that the U.S. government.
Yeah, or Children Protective Services.
For sure.
And there are some really bad ones in various states. Florida is a real battleground.
Yep. Hey, next week, if I can arrange it, it's just a question of timing between Mark Taylor and myself. We're going to try to get Mark Taylor on the show. And we have some other great guests coming up for 2019. Talk to our good friend Farrah Prudence and maybe have an interview with her and her mother. And her mother has a very interesting story to tell. Yeah, it's just, boy, I tell you what, the people we get exposed to on this show, it's just absolutely amazing.
It is.
Just amazing. 2019 is going to be the year of the family. the revolution of the family. We want to end the program today with a warning about where America is headed and leave that with you, but also tell you that this can all be avoided, if we start focusing on the family. B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson, your last call.
A familiar voice from 1965.
If I were the Prince of Darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness, and I'd have a third of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. And what'll you bet? I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be. And thus I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing. Paul Harvey.
OMG. Does that look familiar, folks? Does that look familiar? To be forewarned is to be forearmed. And I think we have a way out of this morass. B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson, this has been your last call. Thanks for listening today. Tell your friends about us. And jump in. The water's fine.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of Last Call with B.J. Edwards.